Thank you for watching this episode of the 5-Minute Bible from the 2 Timothy 2:2 Objective. Today we'll take a closer look at the 6th book of the Bible, the book of Judges. The book of Judges takes place after Israel entered the Promised Land and details the degradation of the people of God that took place over the 300-plus years between Joshua and their first king, Saul. The book begins with a double introduction. The first part of the introduction begins with the death of Joshua and tells how God's people failed to clear out God's enemies from the Promised Land. The second part of the introduction also begins with the death of Joshua, but this time the author details the cycle God's people walked through with every judge. First, God's people would commit spiritual adultery by worshiping idols. Because of their unfaithfulness, the anger of the Lord would burn against them, and God would hand them over to be enslaved and brutalized by their enemies. In their affliction and oppression, the people of God would reach a point where they would cry out to their Redeemer God. When they did, the Lord would be moved to pity. In answer to the people's cry, the Lord would raise up a leader for them, called a judge, who would, empowered by the wisdom and strength of the Lord, deliver God's people from their enemy. Once freed from their enemy, the people would experience peace. Then, when the judge died, the people would eventually turn back to their sinful ways and they would begin their idolatry again, and the cycle would continue. After the double introduction, the main section of the book details 12 stories of judges God raised up to rescue his people. The list of judges could be broken into 3 groups of 4 judges. The first group of 4 judges begins with Othniel, who gave the people of God peace from the king of Mesopotamia for 40 years. His story is followed by Ehud, who was the left-handed judge who freed God's people by killing the fat king of Moab. The next judge, Shamgar, saved Israel by killing 600 Philistines with an ox goad, which is a wooden tool with a spike at the end. This group is rounded out with the story of Deborah and Barak. Deborah, the only woman judge, and Barak, the commander of 10,000 men, freed God's people from the king of Canaan. The next section of 4 judges begins with Gideon. God had Gideon dwindle his 32,000 men to only 300 to show that it was truly God who rescued his people. After Gideon, Tola is said to have saved Israel and judged them for 23 years. After him, Jair judged Israel. We're told that Jair had 30 sons who rode 30 donkeys and ruled in 30 cities. The last judge in this division is Jephthah. Jephthah was the son of a harlot, but was raised up by God to rescue God's people. However, Jephthah made a rash vow and sacrificed his daughter, a tragic chapter in Israel's history. The last group of 4 judges begins with Ibzan, who had 30 sons and 30 daughters. He gave his sons and daughters in marriage to those outside the faith. Next, Elon judged Israel for 10 years. Then Abdon, who had 40 sons and 30 grandsons, who rode 70 donkeys, judged Israel for 8 years. The final judge is perhaps the most well-known, Samson. Given to God as a child as a Nazirite, Samson is given incredible strength. Samson lived his life breaking every Nazirite vow until Delilah cut his hair and he lost his strength. Even then, God granted Samson the strength to crush the leaders of the Philistines and free God's people. The book of Judges concludes by detailing how the sin of the people impacted them. They had committed themselves to idolatry. That displayed itself in rampant sexual immorality. Eventually, we read how God's people went to war with each other and killed each other. The last verse of the book is really the summary of the entire book. Judge 21:25 says, "In those days there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes." The book of Judges shows that we all need a savior. Throughout the book, the reader is to examine these leaders to see if maybe they are the promised seed from Genesis who will save the people from their sin. But we come to understand that none of these leaders are the savior we need. As you read through the book of Judges, take time to learn about these remarkable leaders God raised up to free his people, and remember to thank God for the ultimate savior, Jesus Christ. Thank you for watching the 5-Minute Bible from the 2 Timothy 2:2 Objective. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel so you won't miss new episodes. You can also stay connected to me by following my Facebook page. You can email any comments, questions, or suggestions to Roland@2t22.org. You can download free resources at 2t22.org/free, including a free book containing outlines of every book in the Bible. Thanks again for watching, and I pray you've been encouraged and built up in your faith in Jesus Christ. If so, please pass this on to others who will also benefit. That is, after all, the 2 Timothy 2:2 objective.